Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and to the second installment in the Walthers Grain Elevator Kit Bash series. If you're watching last time, you'll have seen me get the bulk of the structure built. And as I mentioned at the end of that video, everything was going really well up to that point. But after that, things started to get, shall we say, a little more interesting. I had problems with the paint adhesion, the windows, and a few other things. And of the two video clips that I made during the window installation process, neither of them were usable. So I'm just going to have to patch that in next. So now let's just get back to the project. Well, here is one of the window sprues. You can see that a lot of them have been cut out when there's still some left over. This is the first time that I've ever seen windows done like this by a kit manufacturer. Normally I quite like the Walthers window frames. They're cast as separate components, maybe a little on the heavy side, but they still look great. These I'm not too happy about. The frames and windows are all cast in one piece in clear plastic, which makes it pretty much impossible to paint them neatly. Now, I looked up what other people had done with this same kit and found the suggestion of using a Sharpie. Fortunately, I had one of the right colour, so that's what I did. That wasn't quite the end of the story, because the solvent tended to wash off most of the ink on a few of the windows. So then I had to retouch them up in situ with a fine point Sharpie. The result wasn't quite as good as I would have liked, but fortunately the grain elevator is a background building where it's going to be viewed from about 3 feet away. And from that distance they look fine. I did think about looking for alternative window frames to put in, but by the time I realized they were done this way, everything else was painted, and it would have been very unlikely that I'd be able to get windows that fitted exactly, so I'd have to redo all the holes, and at that point it might have ended up becoming a scratch building project instead of a kit bash. So I elected to go with the windows provided. I'm actually thinking there might be a business opportunity here for somebody with a 3D printer who would like to produce the window frames as an aftermarket part. I'm sure they would sell very well, because I know this particular kit is very popular, yet I can't imagine anyone wanting to use these windows if there was an alternative available. So if any of my viewers has a 3D printer and is interested in making some money out of it, please contact me through my website. I don't actually know how much influence I have on the market through my viewer base, but I would certainly be willing to give a shout out to anybody producing those window frames. Well, here are some of the lighting components that I bought from Woodland Scenics for this project. They're really easy to use. Here is the light hub. I've got a power supply in the distance over the back of the workbench. Excuse the mess. Each hub will take up to 4 lighting circuits. I've got these bright warm whites. And I have a flashing red light for the top of the roof. And I've got a few other alternatives as well that I can experiment with. I've also got to extend all the wires as well. Looks like it's going to be fairly easy, although it's certainly not what I would call cheap. I spent more on the lighting components than I did on the kits. Anyway, I'm just going to turn the camera off and get to work. So don't go away. I'll be right back. Well, here is the first test with the room lights turned out and the building lights installed. The most obvious problem I have is all the light shining through the plastic. I do have some black paint that I'm going to use to paint the inside of all the lighted rooms, and I guess that is probably the next step. Other than that, I think this test is quite successful. So let me go away and paint the inside, and I'll be right back. Here is the same shot with the light blocking paint installed, or one coat anyway. It did not cover very well at all, and I'm not that impressed with it. I mean, it's supposed to be 4 plastic kits, and the paint just doesn't stick very well on plastic. Actually, I think it's just a half-size bottle of cheap apple barrel paint with 1000% markup on it. Since certain areas of it are successfully blacked out, I think it'll probably work better if I recoat it after it's had time to dry. So I'm going to try that. and then I'm going to come back for another trial. Well, I've had another attempt, and I think the head house is okay, as long as I get the camera in the right place so that that light is not shining directly through the window onto the lens. The main tower is still a long way from being okay. I have still got to slap a lot more paint on that. I'm going to put it on again as thickly as I can get it to stick and see if that helps. So don't go away, I'll be right back. Well, here it is after one more effort with the paint. Yes, I know you can still see a little bit through the areas that are not lit. That's because I don't have a solid backdrop behind it. I think the blacking out of the lit areas is now sufficient, so I think I'm going to go with that. Well, after the customer has approved the lighting, it is time to start weathering the structure. Concrete grain elevators tend to get vertical streaks over time, rain streaks, and it's probably washing dirt and debris down off the head house. I represented that effect on one grain elevator that I built for my own layout several years ago, and I'm going to duplicate it here. I don't remember what colour I used then, but I've got a little bit of brown oxide. Actually, the bottle was nearly empty, so it's very runny, but it needs to be a wash anyway. So I'm going to start by wetting the surface with a large brush and then just drizzling on small amounts of the brown paint. And I'm going to try to keep it subtle and just build it up gradually rather than risk going overboard. So let me turn the camera off and get to work, and I will be right back. Don't go away. Well, I now have a fairly light coat of weathering over the whole structure. The wash didn't work out at all well. For some reason it just would not stick to the paint that I used. So plan B was to use weathering powders, and I just did it with a mix of brown tones mixed in with a bit of light grey. Just applied it with a wide brush in downward streaks and then scrubbed most of it off with a paper towel. Anyway, I think the result's okay. I'm just going to send the client a photograph and see if he likes it the way it is, or if he'd rather have a slightly heavier coat. And then once the main structure is done, I can add all the details. So let me just wait for the feedback from the customer, and I will be right back. Don't go away. Well, here is the grain elevator all finished. I sent off some final pictures to the client this afternoon, just to ask him if he thinks there's anything else he wants me to add. And assuming that he doesn't, all I have left to do is pack it up for shipping. I have not been able to find a box the right size to ship it in, so last time I was at Lowe's I bought a sheet of door skin plywood so I can build a custom crate for it. Well, here is the structure packed away in its crate. All the lighting components are in a pocket in this corner, and I have carrying handles to make it easier to carry without damaging it. All I've got to do now is screw the front panel on, and it'll be ready to ship. Well, despite getting a few little wrinkles in the process, the final result turned out okay. I sent the customer some photographs of the finished product and he liked them very much, so no problems there. That is all now crated up and ready to send off, so I'll end this video here and I hope to see you back next time. So in the meantime, thanks for watching and bye for now.